Thursday, January 23rd. Let's go. It's another episode of Business and Leadership Podcast. I am your host. I'm the only host, Ryan Franks, and I'm thrilled that of all the places you could be tuning in today, one, you are with the Messenger Studios. That's the best place. That's the only place for all of your stuff. And we got some amazing sponsors, right? We got Meade County Christian. That is home of Christ education right here in Meade County. It is exploding. Big things coming up. We've got Dunkin' Donuts out of Corydon, and obviously Journey Church always putting the way. Pulling stuff left and right, making things happen in our community. We love people, and we want you to always come and say what's up. We got our awesome guy engineer. We got Steve in the back, and I've got the most incredible entrepreneur, businessman. I'll tell you, he's got properties. He's got El Caminos. He's moving left and right. And so, anyways, welcome to the show, Luis. Bravo!
Thank you.
I love it, my friend. Hey, thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely.
To come, man.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure.
Absolutely. So let's do this. As the music's kind of winding down here a little bit, I'm trying to think of the first time we met. We've been saying hi for at least 4 to 5 years now.
Correct.
Right, bringing the family in. I've got a 10-year-old, 7-year-old now, and actually, Ryder's only ever known El Caminos, right? That's all he's ever known. Hands down, best hot salsa that we take pride in it. If you never served food, we'd still come for the chips and salsa. That's
there you go.
That's what it's at. So, but no, honestly, thank you so much for coming today. Man, you know, when I was just thinking about business and leadership and entrepreneur, boy, you were one of the first ones that came to my mind about just moving and grooving. And so I know that you're also doing like properties. You know,
right.
you got your hand in properties.
Absolutely.
But you know, listen, you've been here in Brandenburg. So like I was scrolling your social media, and so high school here, like has Meade County always been home for you?
It hasn't. No, I started out in Salem, Indiana.
Okay.
That's where I grew up. I moved here my 8th grade year, but it has felt like it's always been
Absolutely.
home. Once I moved here, it was I didn't ever want to leave there, but once I got to Brandenburg, I felt so welcomed, not only me, but my family as well. Once we took a step here, and we immediately felt like we were at home. So, in my opinion, this has always been home.
That's incredible. Now, and how long has this been home? How many years you got invested?
We moved here, I want to say, in 2013.
Okay. Wow, 13. Okay. You know what? Oh, that's wild. Okay, so hold on. I've been here 8.5 years?
Yes.
So 2016, I think. Okay, wow. All right. So it's not super far, but, you know,
Right.
but being 25,
yes.
I'm 40.
Yes.
We were in different seasons of life, but yet here we are today.
Correct.
Now, first of all, before we dive in, like, tell us a little bit about like El Caminos and tell us just a little bit about like what you're doing, like, because you're clearly in the business world.
Yes.
Like, you are a business guy.
Yes.
I know that you always got like an iron in the fire, and if you're anything like me, you've got multiple, because you know, like 90% of the time we're going to get told no.
Yes.
Right. So we're always going. So like, what is it about business that you love? Like, how does that relate to like El Caminos and the properties that you manage?
Well, I'm going to tell you how it relates. So it doesn't actually relate at all. My real estate side of me is something that I just was passionate about growing up. I've always worked at El Caminos, and I've got to work with many people with very different businesses, and I've just kind of taken a little bit of what they told me just from coming in to eat and made something out of it myself. So I've made so many connections, including
That's true. You know, I didn't really think about it. I mean, you have probably, not only have you probably met thousands
Absolutely.
of people, and
From
probably
all over the place.
I was going to say, and everybody has frequent the doors of El Caminos. How often do you find yourself like striking up conversation at a table outside of, because I know that there's like, so I don't know if Dunkin', I'd have to look at the paperwork. I don't know if I think technically we're labeled a restaurant, but it is so much different than, like, when I think of a restaurant, I think of El Camino. I don't think of like Dunkin' or like Taco Bell or anything. That's fast food. Like, you come in, you're hoping for like the cheapest item, and the brand awareness kind of like carries the name, and you've already kind of decided if you're going to go and give it a try. But what you do, though, it's so much more personal or personable as well. So
absolutely.
When did you? Okay, so keep going a little bit, but that just kind of struck like a great chord. Is you've probably spoken. Give me one of the conversations off the top of your head that resonates with you from you just doing your job at El Caminos, but you had an opportunity to stop with a guest and talk. Like, what is something that comes to your mind?
Well, one of those conversations is my real estate side of it. I did that through social media, with all the positive and great things that there is out there offered to us.
Right.
I was able to get into real estate a little bit and learn more about it, and I've come to understand that most of the people who have anything in life have real estate. And that was one of the things that caught my attention because I try to learn from everybody, right? From the things that they tell me, I pick up
Right.
things that maybe catch my attention. So what I did there was actually my first actual purchase of real estate was through El Caminos, a great local friend of mine. I had mentioned to him that I was interested in doing what he was doing. And I said, well, listen, if you're ever interested in selling just one of your properties, make sure
Interesting.
you reach out. And the funny part was, I still recall this day. I want to say it's been about 5 or 6 years now, but I was sitting there watching a football game.
Yeah.
And he comes up to me and he says, hey, Luis, are you still interested in buying a rental property? And with that being said, it struck me like a lightning bulb. I just
Right.
sat there and I froze for a second. I said, absolutely.
Absolutely. I knew
This
it.
is my chance.
That's the word, right?
That's life.
Yeah.
Is you have to take advantage of the opportunities you were given, and sometimes
Right.
they won't last long. If I would have told him I wasn't for sure or seemed undecisive,
Right.
maybe he would have moved on to the
Yeah.
next person. So my immediate was, I am. Let's go look at it. And he says, are you serious? And I said, yeah, when you're done eating,
Yeah.
let's just drive by it. And we drove by it, and about a month later, I purchased my first, and
Wow.
actually my second and third through him within a short few months.
Now, okay, so two thoughts. I love that you use the word absolutely because I don't know if that's something that I've just done or that I just kind of believe in or we have that in common, but I just feel like the word absolutely always just initiates like your absolute level of interest. Like, hey, you want to go do something? You want to go play soccer? Absolutely.
Yes.
Like the answer is beyond yes. Like it leaves no uninsurance of that. They're like, oh, well, maybe he's not really interested. He's like, oh yeah, no, it's like absolutely. And I love the fact that you moved so quickly on that. So let me ask you this. When you were presented with the opportunity, right, whatever that time gap was between like saying, oh, hey, like if you ever have an interest in selling, that'd be awesome, to the time that it did come to you, what was it? Do you remember the time that elapsed in between the two?
I don't remember the time. No, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't. No.
It wasn't like years.
No, absolutely.
Maybe like a couple of months?
Less than that.
Less than that.
Probably a month or less, correct.
When you had that conversation with that guest, that individual, did you start changing or saving or adjusting or investing even into information on what that would look like? Or because you already had the passion.
Correct.
So did you make anything, did you change anything in your lifestyle, or did you start saving for anything so that if that opportunity were to come, you'd be ready to do it?
I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, Ryan. I've done that since I was like 13.
You're just ready.
I've been ready, and I'm always ready, because that's the thing about life is you got to prepare for those opportunities. When they show up, you can't blink. And I've studied real estate enough prior to that conversation.
Okay.
I guess after me and him spoke,
Yeah.
I kind of decided that was definitely something I was willing to do. I just hadn't decided what I was going to use it on. And once that opportunity came up, I knew exactly where I was heading and the direction that I was going to pursue, follow, right? So with that being said, immediately when it struck me, I knew that it was a great opportunity, and I've been blessed to say that it's
worked out.
In my interest, correct. Yeah.
It's funny. The other day I was reading a bunch of quotes about entrepreneur and like the difference between like a manager and a leader and an entrepreneur, and it was really funny. So one of the things if you ask any of my team members, whether it be like the team members in Wichita with all the Duncans, or the Duncan here, or the church staff, or wherever, they would say that Ryan. So we have a few words that are absolutely banned, like in all of them, and one of them is like I can't. Right, or I forgot. Those are banned. But one is that we never wing it.
Yes.
Now I don't mind playing jazz.
Yes.
I don't mind having a structure and going with the flow and kind of like working through it a little bit. But one thing that you said, I'm trying to go back to it just a little bit here.
Yeah.
You're passionate about it, right? You knew that you were going to do this, and that and that the quote was that entrepreneurs jump first and they build the plane on the way down.
Correct.
And so that's kind of what I gathered a little bit from you just now, is that you were just like, hey, if this ever comes up, and then I will figure out what to do with it. So you did feel like that the opportunity was so good in itself.
Absolutely.
That even though you didn't have all the answers, it was worth taking that risk.
Absolutely.
How do you ever assess the risk versus the return? I guess the ROI, the risk on investment, or the risk on return. That would be RWR, but ROI is what it officially is. How do you ever gauge, like, I mean, I guess maybe like layman's term would be like a pro and con list. But
I do.
What are your measures on if this is going to be a good fit for you? Do you have like any kind of like?
Well, the way I look at life is if it doesn't work out, it's a lesson taught. And you know, I have had many things that didn't work out, even in real estate.
Yeah.
And you know, the funny part is that if you just maintain a positive mindset,
right,
and just pray and trust that it's all going to work out.
Interesting.
In my case, it actually did. My worst real estate investment, and I truly mean this, was my best one.
Okay.
And just to go into detail, bought a property, had a few issues. I thought, man, this was a terrible idea. Well, then came the positive side to it. I remodeled it, sold it, put it on the market. On the first day, I made a good profit. And I quickly realized that all we can do is trust God and have faith that in the worst situations, positive things come out of it.
You learned a lot through that too, right? It can look ugly.
Absolutely.
Do you ever intentionally go for underperforming markets or underperforming ideas, or do you try to find things that are at least like breaking even on the books or turning a little bit, but it's just not worth it to that person anymore?
I do both.
You do both.
I am willing to take a risk. The reason I'm willing to take a risk is, you know, worst that can happen is, like I said, you learn your lesson.
Right.
But also on those risk occasions, it's kind of like gambling. You might flip it for double and you might lose, but if you lose, you learned a lesson. So I do prefer to play it safe because if things are going good and they're going in the right direction, they're almost always going to continue to go in the right direction. And in a lot of situations, if they're not going in the right direction, you're going to continue to fail, right? But if you trust the process and have faith that it's going to work out, a lot of times it will. Dude,
trust in the process. That is a mature thing to say because it requires patience and time. And, you know, anybody can replace a materialistic thing. Anybody can buy more, the power of buying. The one thing we can never get back is time.
Absolutely. It is our
most valuable
asset.
And I feel like any leader, influential, that is still standing today, that has something to look back on and be like, this is what's been built. I think they would say, when I get to a certain level, I delegate it out.
Right.
And I move on because it's not that it's not worth my time anymore, but I can't keep building the business if I'm stuck in the executive duties every single day. And so you're investing time, you know, and have you gotten to the place yet where you have so much going on that you're less accessible, or that you have like an assistant, or are we still, okay, I guess here's what I ask. And I'm not saying like salary wise, like I'm not asking you to like disclose, you know, like the financial side of life, but I was listening to an influential podcaster the other day, and he was just kind of giving just like some boundaries. He's like, listen, he's like, in business, when you get to $100,000, which is, they say, the hardest thing to make, is the first 100K. He goes, and once you've done that and it's consistently coming in, you need an assistant. And I was like, okay, I mean, like, it makes sense. And then he said, when you start making over $250,000, over $250,000, you need help at the house, because now you're doing things at the end of the day that is time consuming, and it should either be with, you know, family. In my case, you know, or ways to make more, or how to grow something. It's time that's now being ill spent. It was great in the beginning, but now it's there. Do you find yourself in a place where you have had to start hiring additional, it could be managers, district managers, you know, because I know that your family, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys have a pretty sweet portfolio when it comes to like restaurants and businesses and things like that. But you've got brothers. Do you have sisters?
I do have one sister.
Yeah, you got one sister. Yeah. I've seen her. I've never met her. It's law school?
She's in law school, and she graduates this summer, April, I believe.
That's incredible. Hey, it probably doesn't have hurt to have a lawyer in the family.
And she's a really good one. Let me just say that. So, and she will be a really good one.
Okay.
So the key word that you used was consistency.
Yeah.
The importance of consistency is it's going to get you where you want to go.
Yeah.
It's the most valuable thing we can have is, I would say, time and consistency. If we put both of those things together, we're going to get very far, right? So to answer your question, yes, I have a great team. And the reason I say I have a great team is I trust them with my life.
Okay.
That is the most important thing you can have, I believe, to be a successful person. Is you have to gather up a group of people that you can make the best team out of.
Yeah.
And I do have a few of those, and they're all wonderful. And they're
Outside of your family.
outside of
Outside of your family. Okay.
They are very hardworking, and they allow me to have the time to accomplish the things I want to do. And that is so important that I can't stress it enough to people, is build a great team, have the best of the best out there, and then the most important part is be consistent and work on yourself. If you can do that, then you can accomplish anything.
When you say work on yourself,
Absolutely.
because, there's a billion books out there that are all about self-investment.
Yes.
What do you do to work? So like podcasts, books, like
A little bit of everything.
a little bit of everything.
So work on yourself is truly important, because in the process of accomplishing your dreams, you're gonna get beat down.
Oh man.
You're gonna get a lot of negativity around you. People are gonna tell you no, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things that gets you furthest in life, is when people try to do that, but you can come
Right.
out in the end and come out with a smile on your face and say, "You might be right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna prove myself.
Okay.
I'm going to prove it to myself that I can do this." And that's one of the most satisfaction things that I believe, is that you can do it if you truly believe it. And if it all fails,
Yeah.
then you try again. And that's all we can do.
I love that. On the investment side, have you ever rolled the dice when, because they say if you're going to invest in something where you're okay losing. Like never invest where where you couldn't just walk away.
Correct.
Has in the very, very, very beginning,
Yes.
has there ever been a time where you're just like, actually, I need this to work?
Absolutely.
Like, okay.
From what you're saying, yes, that is correct. The scariest part is the beginning.
Yeah.
It does get a little bit smoother and easier as the road goes on.
Isn't that crazy how that works? Like,
It is crazy. You're willing to take more risk.
yeah.
At the beginning, whenever I first thought about doing my first real estate deal, I immediately said yes, because I knew it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I just had that gut feeling, and you got to have it.
Yeah.
But it was scary. It was very scary.
Doesn't make it any less scary, does it?
It was my first time. You
Yeah.
know, if
Yeah.
you mention restaurants, I can talk about restaurants all day long. I can tell you how to
That's
make them
cool.
work. I can, and the word consistent is the most important one when it comes to a restaurant and in life. But
Right.
it was not a restaurant, and that was the scary part, because it is a big investment. But as time went on and more investments were made, I started to get more comfortable. I started to learn more about
Yeah.
the trade, and it just got better.
I think one of the coolest things that you have said this whole time, you said some great stuff, is I could talk restaurant with you all day long. One thing that I've realized over the last couple of years is I want to be around people that can speak to the business of what they're passionate about.
Yes.
Like I have no doubt that as we're talking about, we're talking about life and business and but if like we sat down and just talked about restaurants, which we absolutely can, it's talking about like payroll and truck and all this stuff. I doubt you would have to prepare
No.
on this
not at all.
podcast to come and be like, well, I brought my notes with me about like what percentages should look like and what the schedule should look like.
Correct.
And, when we're opening and are we getting out on time and,
Yes.
what happens if the snow blizzard comes in and, the truck doesn't make it or anything like that. I have no doubt that you could be like, this is what we're doing.
Absolutely. No, because I have spent so much time learning about the restaurant business
Yeah.
and seeing what works and what doesn't work, all our failures and all our successes. And all I can say is, I do it for my family.
Yeah.
My family is the most important thing to me. My family and my fiance, soon to be wife, they are the most important things to
Yeah.
me. And whenever you put those things above all,
Right.
God, your family,
Yeah.
all above all, then everything else gets easier. So with the restaurant business, I spend so much time there. I learn, I meet new connections, and I just actually enjoy it. And a lot of people don't. You have to find a passion. You have to
Right.
find joy for what you do. And working at the restaurant is one of the things it's truly easy to say I enjoy.
It doesn't feel like a job
No, it
because
doesn't.
you love it.
Absolutely.
I think that's where a person has to be. It's like, oh, are you going to go put in some hours? Oh, no, I get to.
Yes.
Now, I know one thing that's kind of funny is that I meet a lot of people that are up and coming. Well, they have potential, and I was just like, what are you passionate about? I want to be my own boss. And I'm like, careful what you pray for, because like if you think you're going to go in and walk around with a clipboard and things like that, No, like it could be like a toothbrush for a toilet,
Yes.
and a plunger one day, or you could be serving, or you could be, and one of the things at Dunkin' is that my favorite place to be is at the front register.
Absolutely.
I love or people picking up their mobile order because they're going to wait there, and I get like 2 to 3 minutes of just their time.
Yes.
And they could be wearing anything, they could be listening, they could be on their phone, whatever it is about them. I'm just like, I can connect.
Absolutely.
And so right now, like everybody's coming in because they're a bandwagon Chiefs fan, right?
Right.
And so, but we've been born. My wife and I were born and raised in Kansas City our whole lives. Like we're, this is the first time we're out of Kansas City. And listen, people shouldn't be mad about the Chiefs winning. Listen, if we figured out to pay the refs off before the season began,
then we'd all be winning.
We watched Tom Brady deflate balls for footballs for years. So if but
and I don't blame anybody for being a Chiefs fan. You want to support winners, right? So a lot of people always ask me, "Who's your favorite team?"
Yeah.
And I always tell them the Ravens, and thankfully the Ravens are a winning team. Not this last week, but usually. But then I start to understand that, you don't want to support losers. They must be doing something wrong. If they could find a strategy to fix what they're doing wrong,
right,
then they would be a winner and they'd have a bigger support system.
Was it Ravens and Bills? Or no, it was Ravens and...
No, the Ravens lost. Yeah, it was the Bills. I'm sorry. Yes.
So,
it's Josh Allen, yes.
Listen, we're going to stay topic on business, but the Bills didn't win. They might have, but we should have saw an overtime.
Yes.
We should have saw an overtime because that 2-point conversion, it was executed. Yes. He's in the end zone.
Yep.
He beat them all. He dropped the ball.
Correct.
He's only had 4 drops all season long. 2 of them were in that game.
Yes.
So I don't know.
Well, that just goes to teach you a little lesson right there, Ryan, because if you can relate all aspects of life to business and success, sometimes all it takes, you could have caught the ball, won the game, moved on to the next game, but sometimes it's the smallest mistake that you can make that changes the whole aspect of your life.
Isn't that crazy?
Aspect of your game, correct.
So do you do business or prepare differently knowing that, I mean, you don't do business fearfully,
correct,
or timidly or anxiously, like I'm not suggesting that. How do you just give it to the Lord?
Absolutely.
You do your due diligence, you do your prep.
That's correct.
You go and you just say, and then if it's a loss, it's a loss, and you walk away. Because I know that I have lost way more than I have ever won. Because I know that failure is the greatest teacher.
Correct.
And winning is actually just like a word of encouragement. You learn along the way of like, oh, wow, okay, that worked, that did not. But when it comes to winning and losing, if you will, how has that... What's been one of the... Tell me about a time, because, I'm kind of putting together that when you've been CEO of El Caminos for how long now?
6 years.
6 years. Okay, so you were getting going right before COVID.
Absolutely.
So
I got my family through all of that.
I mean, how do you do that? Because that's going to put you younger.
Absolutely. Well, that's where the lessons come in, right?
Wow.
Because whenever COVID hit, we were shut down for a little over a month completely.
Okay.
No business whatsoever.
Okay.
So instead of sitting at home and complaining about the situation, we had to sit there and we had a few discussions of how are we going to turn things around? Because if it stays this way, and in that time period, it seemed like it was going to be a long-term thing.
Right.
Well, as soon as we got the opportunity to open back up, we just had to find a way to move forward with things. And thankfully, things worked out and we're still there, right? So that's the most important part about it is, like I said, sometimes you can't control what happens in life. You can only control what you decide to do.
Right.
So I think that's the most important thing is, Jeff Bezos said it best. He said a lot of the stress that we have comes from the anxiety we get from not taking action.
Whew.
So sometimes we have things we can control,
right,
but we choose to put stress and anxiety over top of it and ignore it because we don't want to deal with it. So if we can pressure ourselves to deal with it and move on, you'll come out on top at the end of that.
What are a couple of, so like those that are listening that maybe are my age or older, right? Or younger, maybe they're in high school and they're looking up to you. Because if there's a person in high school, they can look up to you legitimately and be like, okay, hey, listen, if he can do it by that age, I can too.
Yes.
What is something you would say to the business owner that they're in the most challenging time? You've hit a bunch of great points that would answer this, but just kind of circle back as we're kind of like getting close here. What would you say to the person who is just like, they're pulling 15-hour days, they're pulling 18-hour days, they're putting food on the table, they're doing it for the wife and kids? How do you separate that from like, okay, I'm going to keep working. How do you get beyond the work and actually start not providing, but how do you get out of that rut? Is there, maybe that's too broad of a stroke of a question, but like, what do you have to change about mentally to say, okay, I'm doing it in this way, we're barely getting by, but it's not working? What would you say to a person who, when you say like, okay, you need to start looking at this instead, to change? If you don't change anything, nothing's ever going to change.
Correct.
What is something you would say like, hey, here's a couple things to look at your business if you're not pushing forward, if you're not seeing more results, and you've been doing the same thing for a long time? Is that, I kind of jumbled that pretty hard, but.
Well, I think I understand what you're saying. I think that the most important part of it is that you find a balance.
Okay.
Balance is such an important thing, because whether it's with your family, you don't want to start taking time away from your family to figure your situation out.
Right. Okay.
You want to continue to have that consistency of making time for your family, but also maybe trying a few different things on maybe times that you are already spending doing nothing. For example, if you're getting 8 hours of sleep, maybe you need to wake up about 2 hours earlier.
I like it. Okay.
For a short or long period of time, until you kind of try something different.
Yeah.
But continue to do what it is that you're doing, because you might be failing now, but if you were at any point maybe succeeding, then things will come back around. You know, situations sometimes get a little go wrong, but you find a way to fix them and you move forward. So with that being said, maybe find a little extra time, make a little bit of extra time, but don't take away from time from the most important people.
Right. It almost goes back to the whole time thing, where it's just like you're never going to get that time back with the wife or the kids or the dog or being at the house, you know.
Get back is time. We're going to be the youngest we'll ever be today. So,
you know, man, I am so thankful. You know, it's great that you're 25, you are where you're at, and you understand the time thing. I think that is one of the greatest things that this whole podcast session today to people is like, if you have time, you got to make the most of it, because it's working against you, and everything is always time sensitive. Not to like run around anxiously, not to be like, I got to get this done, and start to like deprioritize things that really should be prioritized.
Correct.
But understanding that there is a balance between like, this is when I gotta put the work in.
Yes.
And this is when I need to, you know, when I go through the door and I start seeing people that I love, it's like, hey, I'm yours. Like,
well, with that being said, I'm going to mention another thing.
Okay.
My fiance.
Yeah.
I think that it is very important that you have somebody by your side.
Oh man, we don't have the
you.
time. Oh my gosh, we could talk about this for an hour. Keep going.
It
Keep
is
going.
the most important asset of your life, in my perspective, because I've been with her for 7 years, and I just proposed a month or two ago.
That's awesome, man. Congratulations.
And I appreciate it. I'm very blessed, and I have been very blessed.
That scared me half to death. That was awesome, though. Yeah, applause, like, right?
Applause, there you go. So she is the reason for all my success.
That's awesome.
My family's been there to support me as well, but my girlfriend, she's pushed me. In fact, the day I made my first real estate decision, I went up to her and I said, I'm nervous. She said, don't be, let's do this.
Let's go.
And I swear I remember those words coming right out of her mouth, and that's when I knew everything was going to work out. But she has supported me in every aspect of life, because when we first got together, she's my high school sweetheart.
That's awesome.
We graduated, she moved in with my parents, and things were great, and we talked about what was our future like, right? And I said, if you want to get married, we can get married. If you want to work on us, work on our future, she chose that. So we did. We built our house at the age of 19, and that was one of the best decisions we ever made in life.
Okay.
And along the way, she supported me and pushed me to be where I'm at today. And that's all I can say is, if you truly want to succeed in life, you got to find that partner that wants what you want as much as you want it.
Yeah. What do they say? Like, communication, finances are two of the three things that will absolutely rip the potential business and a marriage apart. And so it's fantastic. Hey, listen, thank you. Thank you for being with me today. This has been awesome. This has been so beneficial. It's influential. Can we find you on social media? Is there like LinkedIn, Instagram?
They're all under Luis Bravo. My Instagram is Luis Bravo 10, and then my Facebook is just simply Luis Bravo.
Awesome. All right, we'll find you. Hey, listen, thank you for taking the time today to join us. We got Luis Bravo, and he is at El Caminos. He's got all kinds of properties, and he also manages it, right? If you are in the business of owning properties and you need to manage, this is the man to do it for you.
Happy to help.
Absolutely happy to help. Listen, so thank you for stopping in. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another guest. It's going to be awesome. Thank you to the Messenger Studios for putting this on, and hey, we'll see you soon. Be blessed.
Thank you.